So, welcome back to Third Age Reforged for a somewhat smaller scale battle than the previous one. It is a 3v3 on a sort of more standard map, a more open field, and I do believe I have finally managed to sort out the rendering to an extent. Anyway, I know that I can get 60 FPS at the very least, so even if I haven't managed to solve all the problems, I'm moving in the right direction. But yes, hopefully this can be a sort of further test of how the rendering is going, and hopefully, I do want to eliminate the blur if it's all possible, because it's one of the things that really does bug me in the videos at the moment. But nonetheless, we'll move on, and this is a fight between Dale and Rhun, so it's a 3v3. The Bardings and the Easterlings have got a rather bitter rivalry. I don't think you can claim that either one came out of the War of the Ring looking particularly fantastic. Technically, Dale and the Dwarves did win, but it was at the cost of both of their monarchs, after all. So playing as Rhun, we'll go through the runic armies first, and we have Stewed Fungus playing as, he's the one that sent me the replay as well, so big thanks to him. And we have a bodyguard, so again, Rhun, in terms of the matchup here, I would say that the natural advantage goes to Rhun, because while it's not universal with Dale, but most of their really important units tend to be reliant on their armour, and Rhun have got a lot of armour piercing, probably the most of any faction outside of the Dwarves at the moment, so I would give the advantage to Rhun going into this. We also have some Variag Lancers from Stewed Fungus, and the Cavalry advantage just about as well, so all of the natural advantages go to Rhun, I would say. Dale have the skirmish advantage, but that's basically what they're going to be depending on, I think. We have some Clansmen, we have some Runic Swiftblades and some Loke Flagrim. The Flagrim are going to be very important. Very good workhorse unit for Rhun. We also have the Balchoth Tribesmen and the Clan Crossbowmen. Both of these skirmish units are quite lightly armoured, so they do need to be careful of the Dalian skirmish power. In addition to the Balchoth Sapphire Bladesmen, a very, very deadly javelin unit, but it's also very easily singled out by archers. Something that's less easily singled out because of their own armour are the Dragon's Wrath Crossbowmen. Very expensive, but potentially a match winner, all of their own making. And we also have some Camel Shadow Bows, Rhune's best composite bowmen, but they're still not fantastic, to be honest with you, in terms of damage. We've got Gamp Rim, a Catapult, and 2 units of Scion Rim, an armour-piercing high-tier spear unit. They will be very useful, provided they can get into a good position. The Shadow Guard are also a very good unit to go up against Dale with. More Flag Rim, more Swift Blades, and then over on the flank we have more Clansmen and a unit of Loke Inas Rim. So let's go back over to Black Plague 689, he's playing as another runic army. We've got 2 units of Gamp Rim, we've got 2 units of Flag Rim. He's got some Clan Hunters, so he's got some low tier archers, so he is intending to at least go toe to toe with Dale in the long range stakes at least a little bit. He also has a catapult. Bringing siege on a field map is quite bold, but then if you feel as though you're going to have the cavalry advantage to protect your catapult with, it can be worth doing, because it does also force your opponent to be a little bit more active, so forcing Dale, who would otherwise probably just sit back and accept Rhune's advance, now it puts a little bit of pressure on. He's got a couple of units of Clan Warriors, he's also got some Clan Guard, and then he's got some Loke Inas Rim as well, so again a nice mainline cavalry unit, more Inas Rim, and then he's got some Clansmen here at the front and some Nar Rim, so he's got a bigger army, but it is less quality of course. Then over here we have Aaron Wubby, and it looks like he is intending to join his ally because he is facing his entire army this way. He needs to be very careful that the Dalian player doesn't recharge him with cavalry. Having said that, he is the only one of the runic players to have brought the Camel's Dragon Knights, which are of course the best of the runic cavalry forces. Looks like that's the only cav he's brought though, so it might be overwhelmed. This catapult has got no chance of getting over to his ally's position if he's intending to retreat that. So I'm wondering why, if he intended to do this, he brought the catapult. He's got 2 units of Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen, it looks like. Again, good against unarmoured units, but Dale, quite a lot of armoured units. If they want to sort of mow up Dale's lower tier units, then this is the perfect unit to do it with though. He's also got some Camel Shadow Guard, Loke Gamp Rim as well. You're always going to see Gamp Rim as Rhun because they're a very effective pike unit. He's got a lot of them. And then he's got 2 Nar Rim and some Shadow Bow. So he's got all of Rhune's decent archers, and then he's got a very structured look to his army. I do like that at least. Moving over here to the trees, apparently. We have Fabulous Rug playing as the first Dale army over here. He's got a good opportunity to flank into the side there. He's got some Hearth Watchmen. Again, really trash units, but if he's just looking to fill out his army, that's fine. The Barding Herd are a very good anti-armour unit of Dale, so they will be good against most of what Rhun can throw at them, because of course Rhun, they may have a lot of armour piercing, but their own weakness is armour piercing as well. So we've got some Earls here, that's where the General is. A very tough cavalry unit. In sustained melee, I don't think the Dragon Knights would beat them. But off a charge, the Dragon Knights would get much more damage done. We've got more Barding Herd. Of course, we're here in the trees, so most of this Dale army will be obscured. There's a lot of stakes, so there's going to be a lot of skirmishes. And I imagine there's going to be a decent amount of sort of mid-tier infantry as well. Because this is a lot of Barding Herd, so there's got to be some... There's going to be some sacrifices somewhere. Meanwhile, if we go back over to here, to the second Dale army, we have Runic Pasternak, or the Dalian / Runic Pasternak. So both of his presumably favourite factions are in action today. He is playing as Dale, though. He's got some Dalian marksmen again. This is a very... In terms of a standard archer, this is one of the best you can pick in the game at the moment, simply because they're very effective in a skirmish fight, and they also have an armour-piercing weapon when they get into melee. They're obviously not going to win against higher tier units in a skirmish fight, but they will still pad out your line a lot. Dale will still struggle to win a skirmish fight against the Elves, but against all the races of men, Arnor included, they can still do a bit of a number. He's got a lot of Barding Herd as well, so Barding Herd, a very effective unit to use against Rhun if you can get them into melee without them being skirmished down by crossbows and javelins. He's got some Lake Town infantry, of course. This is the sort of throwaway units for Dale. They're still pretty effective, though. He's got a ballista, so all the catapults that the Runic players have brought, Pasternak was very fortunate to have got this. The Dalian Paladins, I don't think Rhun have a single unit that could go toe-to-toe with the Dalian Paladins in melee on the field today. The Dragon's Wrath Crossbowmen could, of course, destroy them, but I don't think they have one in general. The Carmel's chosen, after all, have only 2 hit points. The Dalian Paladins certainly are much more offensive focused. He's got some Lake Town Spearmen, he's got some Lake Town Infantry, he's got some Ravanian Hunters. You don't see these guys all that much. They are I believe they're an axe thrower unit, I'm not sure, or maybe they're a javelin thrower. It's hard to tell, but they are essentially, back in the days of vanilla, there were the units that would throw their axes and then run into melee. That was kind of an annoying mechanic, but they are essentially low tier javelins. And then back here he's got the 8th Wodia Horse Guards and some Earls, so he's got a bit more of a comprehensive cav force. They're not going to win against the Runic forces, but they will at least stall. And then the Dalian Spearmen, of course, they are armour piercing, very good pick. And then over here, I'm sure you saw the very defensive position this guy's got going on. It's not really a noob box, but it is kind of a strange position. He's got hidden units over there, presumably. Let's go from the back forwards. He's got Dalian Marksmen. He too, well, Blazing Noodle has brought Dalian Paladins. He too has got Barding Herd, Dismounted Elves, the Dale Swordmasters. Again, this is going to be an interesting unit. They're not technically armour piercing. If they get in amongst the lower tier Runic units, they will rip their way through them. And then the Dismounted Elves, I worry for these guys, because again they're very dependent on their armour to be effective, and against Rhun it could be messy. Over here we have some Lake Town infantry, we have Dalian Spearmen who are armour piercing, very good pick in this situation. And then he's the only one to have brought the Lake Town Pikes, so they should be pretty good at holding the line provided they're backed up. And then he's got some Hearth Watchmen, and over there he's got 2 units of Lake Town Spearmen. So let's get into a nice position on top of this hill and see how this goes. I think that being over here is probably the best place to start, mainly because I'm interested to see what Aaron does. We can see there's Longbowman. That's an interesting pick. Lower tier archers. So I'm not sure what this guy is going to do with regards to his army. Interestingly enough, we have this sort of semi-noob boxing player over here is kind of a little bit sort of isolated, and he doesn't have a huge skirmish force by the looks of things. And also the catapult fire is already raining down on his very tightly packed position, so again, he's being made to pay for his... It wasn't really a noob box, I don't want to hold too much against him. But again, he is now being cut off because the Runic Cavalry is sort of sweeping. Again, this Dalian player seems to want to go to the aid of his ally. Ooh. We're going to have a cav engagement already. He sent forward the 8th Wodia Horse Guards on their own. Note that the Earls are also coming in. The Horse Guards have got a better charge, and he's going to get into the side of these Innis Rim. Caught napping. The Cavalry is one place where I didn't expect Dale to have much of a chance, to be honest with you, but that's a pretty good start. The 8th Wodia Horse Guards look pretty cool. They look kind of like more elite versions of the mailed knights. Meanwhile, if we look back there was also a charge in on these Lake Town Spearmen, which have gone mental. They seem to be charging headlong into the Runic line. Unless they were just sort of used as bait, which is entirely possible. this Dale army is retreating, after all. Meanwhile, if we look over here, the 8th Wodia Horse Guards were joined by the Earls, which means this unit of Innis Rim will start to die off pretty quickly. This unit of Innis Rim over here is going to well, these spearmen are already routing and broken. What is this army going to do? Again, it looks like he's going to sort of use these Lake Town infantry as a rear guard action, but again, they're throwing away units pretty early on, to be honest, over here. And this catapult is already doomed. I mean, I'm surprised that the Variag Lancers haven't gotten into that yet. Meanwhile, if we look, you can see that Clansmen, yeah, they're really not eager to have these guys come back at all. I'm surprised, honestly, that they didn't try and save these Innis Rim. I mean, if you look there, the 8th Wodia Horse Guards, when in sustained melee, they really did start to take a beating. And again, we have this Lake Town infantry engaging these clan warriors. Again, the Lake Town, I did say they were throwaway units, and technically that's correct. But you don't want to be throwing them away for no reason, and again, they are trying to retreat their forces, I understand that. Wasn't really the best situation they found themselves in. Oh, there's more 8th Wodia Horse Guards, so I missed a couple of units of them. So this is going to be an interesting charge. It's going to charge into the side of these clansmen. This is going to wipe them out pretty quickly. Getting rid of some of the runic numbers. See the other Dalian forces sort of swinging around. So we are steadily going to get these battle lines forming. Meanwhile, these clan crossbowmen, very worthwhile target for the 8th Wodia Horse Guards to go after, but the backup crossbows are going to quickly start firing into them, and also now the Variag Lancers are going to try and pin them. Fascinating cav engagements so far. If we look over here, yeah, that's the end of the Dalian catapult. Very unsurprisingly, that was lagging behind. Again, if you intend to move quickly, never bring an artillery piece. There's no way you can make them move fast. These clansmen, again, the 8th Wodia Horse Guards, you don't see them that much anymore. It's kind of neat to see them again. They've gotten some very nice charges off on the squishier runic units. And Dale are indeed sort of setting up a defensive position. Again, this unit of Innis Rim has taken some pretty severe losses, and it needs to make up its mind what it's going to do before it all dies. And again, there's also this unit of Innis Rim. It's hard to tell which is bodyguard, of course, because they technically use the same models. Fire arrows, I keep saying they don't do extra damage. They look cool though, so who cares, right? These pikemen need to run. I mean, if they wanted to, right now they could pin this Innis Rim in. And if you can sort of negate Rhun's cavalry advantage as Dale, you really need to take it. These Earls haven't really taken many losses. Are they going to pin them in? Time is now. I mean, they're taking quite a lot of archer fire. Defeat seems certain. Black Plague needs to get his cavalry out of here. The 8th Wodia Horse Guards lead the way, and the Earls are following them in. It is a battle of contrasting styles as well. Dale and Rhun are very different to one another in terms of looks. If we look here, sort of the runic positions are, just sort of meandering around. If we look there, these 8th Wodia Horse Guards are just sort of trying to run away from the clan crossbowmen in Innis Rim. I mean, they're going to struggle. They're going to be under crossbow fire, and the cavalry is going to charge them. Although the runic player needs to be careful of friendly fire. But yeah, this cavalry over here didn't get out in time, and now it's done for. Again, there's going to be a bit of friendly fire going on from Dale here. Yeah, the Dalian marksmen are no slouches in melee. As you can see, they have axes, the telltale sign of an armor-piercing unit. And now we have the pikemen. So yes, the runic cavalry is going to be somewhat limited to the bodyguard unit, which is still over there, and the Innis Rim that's chasing. Well, the Innis Rim is coming here. So Dale are forming up a pretty decent defensive position. They're going to be zoning out the runic cav. Meanwhile, if we look over here, we can see clan crossbows. And again, these crossbowmen, unfortunately, they're feeling the effect. Well, there goes the Dalian general from the Earls. Those 8th Wodia Horse Guards stopped charging, but they nearly got a charge off from the clan crossbows. So these 8th Wodia Horse Guards have given the Innis Rim the runaround, but they're about to get recharged. So all that good work is about to go up in smoke. Unfortunately for them. There's also the bodyguard over here, and more clansmen. There's not really an infantry engagement as of yet. There's the Earls. Instead, we look down here. There's a very interesting and sort of frantic manoeuvring around from the Runic and the Dalian player on either flank. So this catapult is not actually firing at the moment. I mean, they may as well empty their ammunition at the moment. Dale are in a pretty packed formation. And it is going to be up to Rhun to advance. And again, they're sending forward their clan hunters and their clansmen, presumably to soak up the ammo. Not a bad idea. But again, Dale have taken a defensive stance, and they have the skirmish advantage. So, at least at long range, which means Rhun are going to be forced to advance. They're committing in individual units, which is a dangerous proposition to undergo. And again, Stewed Fungus is sort of sending forward some of these Flagrim. These pikes, interestingly enough, are not... They are braced, but they don't have support. Which does mean that if the Flagrim choose to, they could try and push through. Again, the Flagrim aren't supported either, so it's kind of... Interesting decisions being made here. But here we can see these 8th Wodia Horse Guards are shaken, and they are being just hunted down by the Innis Rim. Trying to go in and around is an option, but there you'll find sort of the Dalian elite units ready to meet you. And we also have Athala Rangers. Very effective skirmisher unit, very weak to enemy archers, but we can also see the Dalian marksmen. So yeah, Rhun have to advance. The melee advantage is definitely Rhun's. Didn't see where that landed because it landed into the trees. Again, they're committing forward their low tier units. Rhun still have those Camul's Dragon Knights as well. So the Cav could be key in the late game, but Rhun need to push at this point. There's no sense in sitting back and hoping that they waste their ammunition. Again, Swift Blades up against the Barding Herd. The Barding Herd will win that. The Swift Blades are not armor piercing, and the Barding Herd are not a unit to be taken lightly. Definitely a strong halberdier with their sort of long bardiche axes. And over here we can see that the Flagrim defeat seems certain. The Dalian Spearmen have joined the Lake Town Pikemen, and that's almost the perfect accompaniment, because they now also have a bit of armor piercing damage in there, and the Flagrim desperately need backup, and they're going to get it from the Scion Rim. Again, all of this armor piercing is kind of wasted on the lower tier Dalian units. Meanwhile, if we look back here, there are cab charges going on into the Barding Herd. These Innis Rim are now wavering. Again, they weren't really supported either. So far, there's been a lot of cases of units unsupported. If we look here, the catapult is firing in. What are they going for? The Earls. Decent hit on the Earls. Good target. They're pretty clustered as well, so a hit is rather likely. And while if we look over here, there's also another front opening up from Black Plague. He's sending forward his Clan Guard, but again, Clan Guard are very fragile and they need to be supported if they're going to advance. There are some clansmen in here, but again, it's not really the most heavy-duty support. These clan warriors won't do too badly, though. Again, Rhun need to commit everything, though, at this point. What's going on out here? These Athala Rangers are just sort of blocking the advance of these Flagrim. These longbowmen seem to have pulled out their swords as well, so it does appear that some of the Dalian units are running out of ammunition, which is a bad thing for them. As soon as they run out of ammunition, it's red alert then. Because then they're going to need to hope that they've done enough damage that they can hold out. There are still some Earls in the background over there. They will not beat the Dragon Knights after seeing combat though. And if we look over there, we can see that the catapult is being targeted by the ballista of Dale. So a good investment. If you intend to play defensively, a ballista is always a pretty good choice. Now over here, we have the Balchoff Tribesmen and the Dragon's Wrath Crossbowman, although they are hidden. Where are the Sapphire Bladesmen? Ah, there they are. And rather wisely, the Dalian players were targeting them, although it does look like they've been able to use up their ammunition, which, once they get committed to melee, they are not bad in melee either. Very tough. And they need to be, because they're being skirmished, and that is their biggest weakness. Backing up these Lake Town Pikes, we have the Dalian Earls. Again, the Flagrim are ideal units to go up against Dale with, but not on their own. This is a very well-crafted defensive line that Dale have in places. And now, the Swordmasters are also being committed over here. They need to be careful not to overcommit. They do need to make sure they have something in reserve. Again, over here though, it's understandable. The Flag Rim and the Scion Rim together are a very robust attacking force, not easy to get rid of, although the Swordmasters are not armor piercing. The Ravanian Hunters being committed. They've probably used up their ammo. I don't think they've got a great deal of ammunition. They're very cheap. And they're just going to get into the melee. These Scion Rim victory seems certain. They're up against squishier units, so they will have more luck. Definitely one of the more stylish units in the game. Meanwhile, if we go down the line, we can see that in places Dale has managed to break the runic advance, and that means they have some Lake Town infantry spare. So wherever the line is thinning, they will be able to send them. And over here we have Flag Rim. Victory seems certain against all of these low tier archers. When I say low tier, Athala Rangers aren't low tier, but these forces are just being, I think they're just being occupied so that Dale can try and win on other fronts with their more elite forces. The Gamp Rim are here in a massive cluster.
Like a whipped dog. Such a deserter is the brother of the murderer. May he find no peace.
Well, over here,
we have lost half of our men.
We can see that the Earls are fighting against the Camel's Dragon Knights. Again, based on how they work, if the I missed it obviously, but if the Dragon Knights got their charge off, the Dragon Knights should win this. The Earls had already seen combat after all, but in a sustained fight, if they were both at full health and neither one really got a good charge off, the Earls would win. But now victory seems certain for the Dragon Knights. But that is going to be a fight where neither one comes out looking fantastic. And again, it's more important for Rhun that they keep their cavalry alive so they can recharge the Dalian infantry than it is for the other way, the opposites to be true. So this Barding Herd defeat seems certain again. The Camel's Shadow Guard are pretty much the ideal units to go up against them with. The Paladins are being sent back down here. I'm not entirely sure I agree with the Paladins being sent up against the Shadow Guard. They won't trade efficiently. They probably will still win. But the Paladins are much better off going up against heavily armoured runic units. Over here the Swordmasters would have been the thing to send in. Well, just in the background there, you can see that the other unit of Dalian Paladins assassinated one of the runic generals. Now they need to be careful. They should not send in the Paladins to this fight over here. This fight is lost. They need to retreat and consolidate their forces again. Over here on this front, where Black Plague and Aaron's armies are, Rhun are winning. But on the other side, where Stewed Fungus is sort of trying to effect an advance, we can see that victory seems certain for him in places, but he is being surrounded. Again, if we look in here, there's Flag Rim and Scion Rim going up against Earls and Pikemen. Although I will still give the advantage to Rhun because the Dale forces are not going to be able to kill as quickly over here. Again, the Sapphire Bladesmen, there's a lot of elite units in here for Dale to try and deal with. Look over here. Defeat seems certain for the Clan Warriors. Another unit of Dalian Spearmen being freed up is just what they need. There's Clan Guard that are free. They need to get in and around these units because, again, when the Dragon's Wrath crossbows are committed, that's going to punch a hole right through the line somewhere. Pretty much unavoidably. If we look down here, you can see the polearm to polearm fight between the Gamp Rim and the Barding Herd. Again, there are Swordmasters here as well. The balance of forces is evenly matched, but the runic skirmishes are now coming into their own. If we look down there, we can see the Nar Rim firing into the Dalian Paladins. Again, the Dalian Paladins were committed here. A bit of a mistake, in my opinion, because the Gamp Rim will be able to hold them off quite effectively. And then you've also got Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen. It's kind of a waste of them, to be honest, because they're not going to win this fight. And the Paladins in the late game could be a match winner in this situation anyway. And if we look back over here, the Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen are going to surround this unit of Paladins. So both units of Dalian Paladins could be largely wasted. And that's a big waste. That could lead to Rhun's victory. And over here we can see that the Camel's Dragon Knights were far more successful actually. They ripped through the Dalian Paladins. I'm not convinced they didn't have a little bit of help there. Because the Earls are tough. But the Dragon Knights are now free, so things are looking very bad for Dale. Initially, Rhun's reluctance to move in was looking like a bit of a mistake. There are 3 units of Paladins, actually. Actually, no, those are Earls. But yeah, there's no escape for these Paladins now. And again, they're such an effective unit to use against Rhun, but not on their own. Not when they have to fight a cluster of pikes like this. Gamp Rim. Oof. I can't imagine that being hit by that giant mace is a particularly pleasant experience. Meanwhile, all of the skirmish power on this side is Rhun's, although these paladins are now sort of engaging these archers in melee. That's a fight they'll win, but I'm kind of confused how that works, how the unit charges in and then they'll stop and then only the front line of the unit will charge in. I wonder why that is. Seems like something that should be removed if that's possible. Again, there's certain things that just aren't possible. Again, defeat is almost a certainty for these Gamp Rim over here. They're starting to get overwhelmed. But honestly, Stewed Fungus's line is holding firm. This fight hasn't really budged, and again, this is what the Scion Rim will offer you. They offer you such an effective, just blocking unit. They occupy units for so long, and they're not easily killed. The AP damage on them as well means you can't just send in all of your best shock units after them, because usually shock units tend to be armoured to some respect, and you don't really want to send them to their deaths. Meanwhile, these Sapphire Bladesmen now defeat is a distinct possibility. Well, the balance of forces is even, but they will lose this.
They have lost half their men.
And now, firing missiles. Are they going to use the fireballs? No, they're using the splinter shot, which is fine in this situation. Dale is sort of spread out enough that the splinter shot will really be quite effective, and what's left of the Dale skirmishes is starting to target them, so you need to use their ammo now. It's something you can't afford to waste. There's Lake Town Bowmen and more Dalian Paladins in the back, so they have saved some units. Meanwhile, we have the Cummel's Dragon Knights. They've taken a few more losses since last we saw them, but they are now silencing the Ballista. There are also some dregs of a unit of Flag Rim backing them up. Again, these Dragon Knights do need to be careful in the presence of units with axes. Meanwhile, over here, the Dale forces have sort of charged down the hill continuously. They are in danger of overextending themselves, particularly when down here Rhun hold the skirmish advantage and can shoot into their backs more oft than not. These Barding Herd. Victory seems certain for them, although that will change with all of these Gamp Rim once they sort of get their pikes down and facing the enemy. All of these Paladins, defeat still seems certain for them. Again, the Carmel Shadow Guard, very, very good unit. Very, very good at dealing with armoured targets. Although they are quite vulnerable to missiles. Again, it would have been one of those units that it would have been very worth Dale's time going after in melee. We also have these Nar Rim over here that are out of ammunition. Just doing their best against these Paladins. It doesn't really matter as long as they can surround them with something. The Paladins will be bled out at the wrists. Meanwhile, these Lake Town Bowmen, do they still have ammunition or are they out of ammunition? No, they have their swords out. No, they have their bows out again. And they've got more Lake Town infantry. So they are now, I think they now see the situation on this front as being critical. And that is true, although I think it might be too late to stop with the Lake Town Bowmen. If they have Dragon Slayers hidden somewhere, that might be a different story. Because that is the kind of unit that can turn a match on a dime. Meanwhile, these dismounted Earls and these Athala Rangers getting into the face of these Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen. And again, very worthwhile doing because the Dragon's Wrath crossbows are so brutal.
Like a herd of goats. Drive them from the battle.
That's one of the Dalian forces down. These Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen trying to run away, and then they'll try and turn around, I imagine, and get as many kills as they possibly can on these Earls. This unit of Clan crossbowmen is gone. And while if we look back here, the Scion Rim's still fighting, but it's pretty much the only thing left over here. But then there's not much in the way of elite infantry for Dale over here either. If we look over here, we can see that these Dalian marksmen are sort of shifting their focus over to here. That Lake Town infantry is broken again. Lightweight units like this are not going to deal with a fully fledged runic advance like this. The Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen are still very healthy. And backed up by the armour piercing of the Shadow Guard, this is the ideal tag team. Of course, it doesn't really matter against Lake Town Bowmen. They're just going to rip their way through them regardless. But yeah, the Dalian position is looking pretty ropey, although now the Dalian marksmen coming in. Look at that, the advance of the pikes. These Dalian marksmen are not going to be able to save the day. They're going to be at best a stalling measure. The Dragon Knights are still alive down here, although that is all the runic forces that were down here that survived. There's still some Gamp Rim sort of standing idle, but Rhun won pretty heavily on this front. On the other front, Dale won, but not nearly as convincingly. There's still a unit of paladins back there. They could be very key in the late game if those Dragon's Wrath crossbows are dealt with. The Lake Town bowmen. A good low tier bow. As you would expect from Dale, they've got a lot of options when it comes to archers. I would say that they probably need to be a little bit stronger when it comes to archery, just to set them apart. Although I believe in the next patch, the armoured archers, which they're sort of being given, I think the Dalian marksmen are sort of being tweaked a little bit to become that. Means that in a skirmish fight, they're going to be able to go toe to toe with most people. I look forward to seeing what Dale become, because at the moment they're a little predictable. I do like the way they play, but I would like a few more options. You don't really have a lot of options when it comes to your mobility. You're always going to be dependent on your archers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just wish you could employ it in a few different ways. Meanwhile, the Dalian paladins are now charging into this fight down here, with some Dalian reinforcements coming from the side, a unit of 34 Athala Rangers, although they're about to be intercepted by these clan hunters. Saving the day again. If Rhun can keep that fight from having a flanking charge inflicted upon it. Well, if we look down here, those are just dead bodies. There's a few Barding herd running around. The Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen escaped the attention of Dale, which could be horrible for them. If they manage to fire a volley of splinter shot into the back of the paladins, then it's all over. Although the ballista is back in effect. Look at all these Dalian units. They could yet turn it around. These dismounted elves charging into the clan hunters. The runic position is very packed again. It's going to be difficult to crack all these pikes. And if we look at the front, the Dalian paladins, the balance of forces is evenly matched. With how much damage the guildsmen have taken, at this point, I would say the Dalian paladins have every chance of turning this around, especially now that they're being reinforced. The paladins are a real powerhouse of a unit. Again, they are slow, next to a lot of shock infantry, but they're very heavily armoured, and they deal a very hefty amount of damage, even to armoured targets. Definitely the core of an infantry-focused Dale, although most of the time I end up foregoing paladins in favour of Dragon Slayers and Royal Guard. I'm not convinced that Dragon Slayers are worth it though. They just have so little ammo, and for so much money. I don't believe the Dragon Slayers are worth 500 florins more than Troll Slayers, put it that way. And you can have 2 Troll Slayers, each for 1,000. The Royal Guard are very good though. Very good centre to your arch. Oh dear, I saw that. That was very unfortunate. He ran his Dragon Knights through the stakes, so the cavalry advantage is gone, and I can see what he was trying to do. He wanted to recharge the paladins, which would have been a fantastic idea had he not run through the spikes. How disheartening though. Meanwhile, what have we here? The Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen are once again being forced into retreat by 45 Lake Town infantry. The crossbows could honestly turn around and take them. And we have those Lake Town bowmen. Let's have a look. At the moment, Dale have the lead, which is surprising considering that when Rhun finally did advance on this side, it was looking good for a while, but Stewed Fungus, seems like his army ran out of steam eventually. Now we've got Earls, what's left of a unit of Earls anyway, charging into the backs of this sort of primary runic blob. Again, the Barding herd are going to be a pretty key unit here. Victory is almost a certainty. It's going to be very close. The Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen are the thing that can really turn this fight around now. Those Dalian marksmen still have some ammunition, and again, it's now a full encirclement if we look down from on high. Rhun fighting back to back. We shall see how this goes though, because of course the Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen, if they get free of those Lake Town units, can very easily turn this fight around. What are they doing? They are fighting a unit of what's left of shadow bows. Very good use of this low tier unit's time, finishing off the remnants of a higher tier unit.
Our army is tiring.
Interesting. Okay, it does look like over here the Dragon's Wrath crossbows finally did notice that they really need to get back into the fight on the other side. And yeah, they're ripping their way through this Lake Town infantry, but just holding them off, trying to make it so that Dale win that other fight. It's going to be close. I mean, it is rather based on how much ammunition that crossbow still has left. Oof.
Pray his troops do not lose their will to fight.
Squashed under a paladin's mace. But yeah, look at this. This is pretty cool. Oh dear, the ballista's firing as well. The Gamp Brim are a very good pike unit, but in this situation they're not going to be able to hold out forever. Again, there's a lot of Lake Town units in here, a lot of Athala Rangers, but there are also individual Earls and Paladins. All the pikes need to do is make these infantry units pay dearly enough that the Dragon's Wrath crossbowman can win Rhun the fight. That's all Rhun can hope for at this point. There's not really much else to be done. It's Barding Herd. I mean, it's hard to see Rhun coming back from this. I mean, there's still how many Paladins? 25 Paladins. There's still 20 Earls. Well, there's still about 27 Earls. There's even a few Swordmasters still alive. I mean, it is a bit of a ragtag bunch at this point. How many kills can these Gamp Brim get? Because that's going to be the key to this fight now. At this point. There's a green triangle over here, though. And that is the Dragon's Wrath crossbowman. And immediately the Dalian marksmen see them coming. Where are those, yeah, the Lake Town bowmen? They need to get up here and they need to engage the crossbows right now. They're not going to use their ammunition on the Dalian marksmen, are they? Again, if you click, it's either Shift or Alt, you can send your archers into melee mode. They are. I mean, it's going to kill the entire unit in one volley, essentially. No, it didn't. Oh yeah, it did. There they go. The splinter shot is so ruthless. As a single skirmish unit, I don't think I'd be afraid of anything more than these guys. As just a presence on the battlefield, I don't think I'd be afraid of anything more than these guys. Every time you face Rhun, you always say to yourself, right, where's the Dragon's Wrath crossbowman? I need to deal with them right now. Yeah, these bowmen are going to lose pretty handily. Although this might be the thing that does the crossbowmen in. That ballista when it starts firing. Let's go see what's happening over here. Honestly, the Gamp Brim have done very well. There's still a few Dragon's Wrath guildsmen in here as well, which, again, the Dragon's Wrath guildsmen will be responsible for the majority of the kills on any Lake Town and Athala Ranger unit. But yeah, the runic sort of, even though they were surrounded, the runic units managed to do very well for themselves. So the cracks in the Dalian ranks were appearing. Only the Earls and the... Well, there goes the Dalian general at the hands of the Dragon's Wrath guildsmen. Can the Golden Dragon take flight? I don't know. I mean, it's very possible at this point. In fact, I would give the advantage to Rhun at that right now. 97 to 97%. Again, that ballista needs to fire at something right now. Because without that ballista, Rhun's quality is going to overwrite Dale's. Meanwhile, let's go and see how the Lake Town bowmen are doing. Not well. They have not managed a single kill in melee on the Dragon's Wrath crossbows with their heavy waved scimitars. I believe they are armor piercing in melee as well. They are the truly scary unit that Rhun have. And yeah, these Lake Town bowmen, they're doing their best to sort of hold them off, but man oh man. This battle has been a battle of two fronts basically from start to finish. It's just sort of they've moved around the map. And it does look like Rhun are actually going to pull this off. Balance of forces is evenly matched. Again, these pikes, man. The Gamp Brim. Again, the Barding Herd are not pikes, they're halberds. They don't have as good an animation as the Gamp Brim. So while the Gamp Brim technically wield halberds as a weapon, they are pikemen because they poke instead of swing. And the animation is significant. It's the reason why pikes are so strong in a sustained fight. And how even elite infantry can find themselves bogged down on pikemen for so long. Again, we've got these dismounted Earls. Victory does seem certain again. It's going to be very close over here. The guildsmen offered the the survivability and the melee skill necessary to sort of keep this blob afloat. So I take it back, Aaron. The Dragon's Wrath Guildsman turned out to be a very good pick. I'm not convinced I still wouldn't have gone for the Cardinals chosen in this situation, but still. Who doesn't like dual wielding? Ooh. The Ballista. They did finally manage to start firing on the Dragon's Wrath crossbows. They got a significant number of kills on them as well. They're down to 9, but yeah, those Lake Town Bowmen are routing. They don't want anything to do with this. The Ballista is going to rout soon as well, so it's not going to have been enough. The Dragon's Wrath crossbows still have 9 left in the unit, and that means the runic victory. There's routing Earls as well. Earls are routing. Ooh, there's also the catapult crew from Rhun. So yeah, I think Rhun have it. Let's have a look. Yep, 98 to 99% in favour of Rhun. So it does look as though the Easterlings... I like the dragon shields on the back of some of the Barding herd. Dale in general have got a very unique look, and I do like it.
Enemy flees
Meanwhile,
before us like a herd of goats.
like a herd of goats. Bolder than roosters. So yeah, the Dalian Paladins are going to be victorious over here, but it's not going to be enough. There's still 3 guildsmen alive. Virtually nothing in terms of Earls. That catapult crew, victory seems certain for the catapult crew against Barding herd. There's the splinter shot into the side of the Paladins. Go on, shoot another volley of splinter shot. Do they still have ammunition? Yes, they do. This is going to be the end. It sounds so vicious as well. The idea behind that initially was that if a unit was charging at the crossbows, they would take horrendous losses the closer they got to the volley when it finally got shot. But it's ended up being just very, very deadly in general. They don't actually have a lot of ammunition, so Stewed Fungus has managed to sort of conserve his ammo for the important parts. If you look back here, 99 to 99%, so it's going to be within 1%, but this is a fight beyond Dale now at this point. I think, anyway. I mean, 6 Paladins. The crossbows are now out of ammunition, but I think in melee they're still going to have what it takes to take on what's left of the Paladins. We have these Barding herd as well. There's still some Sword Masters left alive though, and they are doing a number on the catapult crew. Wait a minute. No, they still have their crossbows out. They just want to get up close and personal. Is that it? Or are they just going to charge into melee with their blades out? This is very, very close indeed. I'm glad I got sent this one. It's just a more standard battle, but it's still been very fun to watch. So yeah, a kill off the charge, and really these Paladins need to get some kills on the Dragon's Wrath crossbows, because if they don't, no one will. Those Spearmen, I think they're going to try and sort of finish off the catapult crew quickly. Because at this point the catapult crew is sort of keeping a lot of these units sort of busy. There's one marksman charging bravely in.
Well within our grasp. In time our foe will surely see this and lose heart.
Yeah, the Paladins are nearly all gone now. They've been in melee combat for far longer than the Dragon's Wrath crossbows. And that means the Dragon's Wrath crossbows are going to be able to see this one out. But my word. Percentage of allies killed 100%. So 100% of the runic forces are now dead, apparently. Can Dale pull it off? They might still do it. There's that one Paladin. There's 8 Dragon's Wrath crossbows. There goes a Spearman. Ooh. Yeah, the catapult crew is still alive. These Barding herd, I'm not sure what they're doing.
Victory is well within our grasp. In time our
Sword
foe will surely
Masters.
see this. Our worthless allies have fled like whipped dogs. These curs are not fit to be called men.
So yeah, the catapult crew routed. These Sword Masters need to fight the Dragon's Wrath crossbows, but it's looking poor. They haven't managed to kill another one, and there goes the Paladin. Look at this, there's like a handful of troops left. There's 4 Barding herd. Yeah, this is going to be it. Rhun are going to have victory. It was so close, right down to the wire. This fight would have been significantly less close if those Dragon Knights hadn't run through the spikes. My word. This, I believe, in terms of sort of men left alive, is the closest battle I've shown. How about that? So thank you very much for Stewed Fungus sending this one in. But yeah, the Dragon's Wrath crossbows once again carrying Rhun across the line, it looks like. That Swordmaster isn't going down without a fight. I don't think he's... If he can get a kill, I'll be impressed. I don't think so, though. He's being... Yeah, there he goes. Oof. The men from the east are victorious. The Golden Dragon has taken flight. If we look over here, these Barding Herd aren't going down without a fight. There's still a... Hang on a minute. There's still over 1,000 frames left in this fight. Are you serious? Is there something else on the field? There's still one Dalian Spearman. I mean, the Barding Herd have got a high amount of... I have noticed it's very difficult to kill the Barding. I say that when one dies, but the Barding Herd are a difficult unit to kill. We shall see. Are they just going to try and... Well, we may as well speed it up just a little bit. See how this goes. There's no way that the crossbows lose to just a few stragglers of Barding Herd. Oof. That's just vicious. Unnecessary brutality. Here we go. So we're finally coming to the end. This does go to show, though, even this little bit at the end. If you want to have Dale have a line that holds for a long time, doesn't necessarily get a lot of kills, but holds for a long time, the Barding Herd are the answer. And there they go. That is it.
Victory is ours, but only by a sword's edge.
8 soldiers left on the field. A unit of Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen of Rhun. And there we go. So Stewed Fungus getting the most kills again. He was up against a lot of lower tier units, I would think, and also on the other side where Black Plague and Aaron sort of made their assault, Dale were a little bit more thin on the ground. Fabulous Rug getting the most kills of the Dalian players. Again, I think that Dale went a little bit too defensive. As when you're up against Rhun, trying to just hold a line as Dale is always going to be quite difficult because of how most of your most important units rely so much on their armour, and Rhun are so good at tearing apart armoured units. So as this was the case, I would have expected maybe the Royal Guard or the Dragon Slayers to make an appearance, and I would also have expected a little bit more of an aggressive play. I would have expected Dale to try and engage the runic, maybe single out a single runic army, especially considering that as Rhun you have the skirmish advantage. If you sort of focus fire onto one army, you could really have done a lot of damage early on to one army in particular and try to deal with some of their crossbows perhaps. But again, it's difficult to know where to deploy. So again, it's just kind of a poor matchup for Dale in the current patch. They're always at a little bit of a disadvantage next to Rhun, as are most armoured factions, it must be said. Rhun are quite strong in this current patch. I would say they're probably, in terms of relative power, I would say they're probably 4th on the list. Gundabad and the Woodland Realms obviously occupy the top 2 spots, with Dol Amroth just in behind them, but excuse me, the best of the rest I would say is certainly Rhun. So yeah, let's have a look at the stats, shall we, on Stewed Fungus's army. Bodyguard and the Cavalry. The Cavalry did what it did. It didn't. I don't think the Runic Cavalry was used as well as it could have been, because Dale was able to kind of just sort of trade 1 for 1 with them, and Rhun should really be beating Dale's cavalry, and it did in the end. The Dragon Knights were sort of left alive at the end, but you know, they got wasted on spikes. And then we've got obviously Dragon's Wrath crossbows, 240 kills, very well done for them. Sapphire Bladesmen getting a lot of kills. They weren't really focused down. Again, I think the Dale archers really should have picked their targets and gone after them in this sort of situation. I think they were just sort of firing a little more wildly. Again, the Catapult got 133 kills, and then Black Plague down here, 230 kills on Gamp Rim. That's pretty impressive for a unit of pikes. Again, they're probably ones that survived to the end. And then down here, we have Aaron, and his most successful unit was a unit of Gamp Rim again. So again, in terms of a workhorse unit, the Gamp Rim have certainly proven their worth in this fight, I would say. So yeah, that was a fun one. Very, very close. Probably the closest fight I've ever shown. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next.